Welcome again to JR's Legal Strike Force. Today we present part 2 of the story of the tragic death by drowning of Marie Joseph in Fall River, Massachusetts on the weekend of June 25, 2011. Now in part 1 we gave you the background of Ms. Joseph, a 36-year-old mother of 5. We showed you the actual video of her untimely and unfortunate death. In this segment, we will show you the investigative report of the Bristol County District Attorney, which we obtained as part of the investigation of this case. Now, some of you may agree with me that it makes you rather hot under the collar that things like this occurred, and it gives a great explanation as to just what did occur. Some of it quite unbelievable, but quite a series of events. So at this point we'll cut to the report and I'll go through the highlights with you. After the tragic drowning of Marie Joseph, the district attorney for Bristol County, Massachusetts, Sam Sutter at the time, ordered his office to do a thorough investigation and eventually produced a 20-page report of its findings and conclusions concerning the death of Marie Joseph. This is a copy of the report. We're not going to go through each and every page of the report or every segment of the report, but I would like to show you some of the highlights, or if you agree with me, the lowlights of the report. So turning to the next page, which is actually page 3, we'll just go to some highlighted sections here, and you'll see that during the seasonal operation, the pool was frequented by children and others of all ages. It had no system for tracking patrons as they entered the facility. In previous years, they had done so by having a hand tally device, probably some sort of a hand clicker, and they would count people coming in and leaving at the end of the day. The device was stolen during a nighttime break into the pool in 2010, and a year later had still not been replaced. So there's one simple device not replaced. Next, the facility had no established method of determining whether any of the patrons, including children, could swim. They had no way of identifying anything by wristbands or anything of that nature. The pool supervisor had been there for 14 years, the assistant supervisor for 9 years, but during that time no one had come up with any such system. Now turning to the next page of the report, they indicate that while those pool supervisors were seasonal employees, there were some full-time employees who were supposed to be watching this, all of these pools and making sure that things did not go wrong. The first one that the report identified was the South Coast District Manager. His name was Mr. Jeff Carter. He had been employed by the district for 5 years. But this was his first year as manager of the South Coast District. Apparently, his background was that he had taken a course in technical pool management, but he was not a certified pool operator. According to the pool supervisor, however, Mr. Carter had told him that he was indeed a certified pool operator. But in essence, he had no experience prior to this summer in running or managing a pool. He reported to the regional director who at the time was Brian Shanahan. Mr. Shanahan was also not a certified pool operator, although he had been with the Department of Conservation and Recreation for more than 30 years. Now, there was also a regional maintenance supervisor who was not certified to operate pools. He had been there 14 years. And as this particular summer came around, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, which was charged with the duty of inspecting public pools, had not inspected this facility at all. Now we're going to go to the next page of the report, in which there is a photograph. This is a photostatic copy of a photograph we showed in the first part, and I showed you a close-up of it to begin this part. And it, according to the report, shows the clarity of the water 15 minutes before Mrs. Joseph's death. Portions of the bathers below the surface cannot be distinguished in any meaningful way. The report goes on to recount the story that we told you last time about Mrs. Joseph going with a 12-year-old neighbor down the slide, a 9-year-old neighbor, I should say, and that this was one of the boys that she had arrived with. According to the young boy, she went quickly behind him down the slide into the pool. She made contact with him, attempted to speak with him, but the two quickly separated, with the boy turning to the slide end of the pool and Mrs. Joseph remaining behind him. As the boy swam away, Ms. Joseph went below the surface. Again, as we mentioned last time, she showed no obvious signs of distress, and she is then no longer visible. The total time here was about 7 seconds. Turning to the next page of the report, in the middle of the page, the boy was brought to the Fall River Police Station that same day, and he told investigators that he went swimming and that eventually went down the slide. He said that Maria Joseph followed him down the slide. He said that this was the first time she had gone down the slide and that she hit him by accident. She tried to say she was sorry, but she was mumbling. She then went down to the bottom. He tried to grab her hand, but she was far too heavy. So he then told everyone that he got out of the pool and told the lifeguard, but she was not listening to him. There's a question as to the story about the lifeguard, because the video and the description that the boy gave don't match. So that was one area that remains more or less a mystery to this day. On the following page of the report, we'll find out that there was a complete failure of the filtering and chemical system that began shortly before noon the day of the drowning. And the chlorination and filtering had not been operating throughout the afternoon. Normal protocol required that this be reported to superiors, but the assistant pool manager simply left a voice message on his supervisor's cell phone. He didn't try to call anyone else. They then tried to add chlorine at about 3:30 in the afternoon, by which time Ms. Joseph is under the water already. But it became clear that this chlorine was not going to be effective. So they shut down the deep end of the pool and only allowed swimming to continue in the shallow end. By 5 o'clock, the pool day was over and they closed the pool. By that time, the filter and the pump were still not functioning, and they continued to be inoperable throughout the entire night and into the morning of June 27th. Meanwhile, Ms. Joseph's body remained at the bottom of the pool. The report indicates that the group that was with her left after making some attempts to find her. They thought she might have gone back to her apartment. Her belongings, however, remained at the pool, including her cell phone, which was recovered by pool staff. They told investigators that over the next couple of days they tried to call on a couple of occasions, but didn't do anything further. Now, the report also indicates that it was well known that the deep water DCR pools, and there were more than one of them in Massachusetts, were going to open on June 25th, 2011. Books were printed, including the operating dates for the entire system. And of course, the staff had to take preparatory steps to get them ready. The witnesses at this pool indicated and reported to the district attorney's investigators that when they began to clear and clean the pool for the season, there was a puddle or pool of dark colored liquid and solids covering the bottom of the deep end of the pool. Surveillance videos that we do have in our possession show that at the deep end. Now we go to the following page of the report, and there are some photostatic copies of the pool. Not very clear here in these views. However, it indicates that members of the maintenance staff discussed removing this oily junk before adding water to the pool, but the pool supervisor told them not to bother doing that because the amount of water that was going to be added to the pool was so great that this material would be insignificant. So, following his direction, the pool was filled between June 6 and 10, 2011. This was a time historically used to allow proper preparation in advance of the public being invited into the pool. Now, as we go to the next page of the report, you'll see some additional photos, and they indicate that the effect of this material on the initial condition of the pool is obvious in the surveillance video. As water comes in, the debris-filled water diffuses throughout the pool. As the water fills the pool, the area of black soiled water residue continues to be visible in the deep end. Continuing further, on June 29, the day of the recovery of Marie Joseph's body, a Fall River police diver dove to the deep end of the pool. And it was his observation that there was, in addition to her body having been down there, her body was among, and this is really disgusting, a lot of debris such as hair, band-aids, hair ribbons, hair bands, newspaper, earrings, coin, leaves from trees, and dirt that looked to be left from the past winter and spring, as well as pieces of broken glass and other known paper and tissues. Over the two drains, there was a large amount of debris that made it hard to even locate them. And this is where her body lay for nearly 3 days. Well, the pool staff informed investigators that the vacuum that they had, and that should have been available to vacuum this kind of junk from the bottom of the pool, was not functioning. Therefore, at no time while the pool was being readied for operation, and at no time while bathers were using the pool, and at no time while Ms. Joseph was lying there at the bottom of the pool, was the vacuum used. It was broken, couldn't be fixed, and a replacement vacuum was located at another DCR facility in Freetown, not that far away, but no arrangements were ever made to transfer the vacuum to the pool, and it was never brought to Fall River. But that's not all. Turning to the next page, the district manager, that's Jeff Carter, instructed pool personnel not to add chlorine to the pool and not to turn on the pump to filter the water. According to the staff, Mr. Carter informed them that there was a big thing about money for chlorine in the state, in Massachusetts, that year, and that the district manager, that's Mr. Carter, had decided he could save money by not putting chlorine into the pool so far in advance of the opening. So at this point we have unvacuumed junk, debris, soil, etc., and not even an attempt to start getting chlorine into the pool. The report reads that to members of the pool staff, this was not right. They informed Mr. Carter this was not appropriate, but he refused to reconsider his decision. So, as the pool water sat there, it became populated with algae. The condition of the pool deteriorated, becoming green and opaque over the following days. During the week of June 13, the pool staff said that the pool, left untreated, had essentially become a swamp. So the staff once again asked Mr. Carter if they could begin chlorinating and filtering, and he again denied their request. Now the unbelievable saga continues as we turn to the next page of the report. Mr. Carter's plan was changed with the return of the regional maintenance supervisor from vacation. When he arrived at the pool, he observed this pea soup green condition. He called the district manager, Mr. Carter, to voice his opposition. Finally, Mr. Carter relented and agreed the water could be treated. The maintenance supervisor later told investigators that this approach by Mr. Carter had been penny-wise and pound-foolish, since the staff then needed to add chlorine in large quantities to try to shock the water to clarity, so that if anything was saved monetarily, it was minimal. The same part of the report indicates that the district manager, Mr. Carter, told investigators he had explicitly stated that the decision was made to save money, although a number of witnesses told them that he had said that. He denied it. And he said that he had consulted with his regional director, that would be Brian Shanahan, and determined that there was no need to pump chemicals into the pool while it was not under constant supervision. It was his contention that doing so might encourage people to jump the fence, go in and use the pool. So the investigators asked him what the difference was, whether it was attended or not during the day. Why would people only jump the fence when it was unattended at day? Wouldn't they also do so while it was attended at daytime? And of course, he had no answer for that. Moving over to the next part of the report, we go to the bottom of page 14, and there it's indicated that Mr. Carter was present the day the pool opened. And he said that he went through a whole checklist, and that must have been quite some checklist, with the pool supervisor and the assistant pool supervisor. And everything was just hunky-dory, just fine. He told them, "You should call me if you have any problems." Pool was a bit cloudy, but he said that he could see the bottom on both ends. He never had a concern about the quality of the water on Saturday. He stated he could see black lines at the deep end of the pool, and then the investigators put a footnote. And it's an interesting footnote. There are no black lines at the deep end of the pool at all. We continue to the next page of the report. On Monday, June 27. The maintenance supervisor was at the pool early in the morning, determined that all of the pool water was cloudy and that the pump and chemical controller were shut off, and he could not figure out what was going on. The maintenance supervisor made appropriate notifications, and after a meeting decided that the pool would be open for operations in the shallow end that day. So you have another day here with Ms. Joseph's body lying at the bottom of the pool with all the other debris, junk, and disgusting things, and yet the shallow end of the pool is still open. Children are using it, mothers are going in with their babies, etc. And they allowed this as if it were a healthy, beautiful environment. So we go over to the next page and find that the regional director, again, that would be Mr. Shanahan, was aware that the Department of Public Health had not even inspected this pool, and he believed that it was because of a mistake by the Department of Public Health. He was not aware of any requirement for a safety certificate. He didn't think it was his job or responsibility to get the Department of Public Health to inspect the pool. When he was investigated and asked questions by the investigators, he dismissed the usefulness of an inspection. He said, well, this is just like driving a car without a current inspection permit. You drive the car and you wait to be pulled over, and then you go get the inspection sticker. And that was from the regional director in charge of these pools. The report further indicates all evidence shows that the water in the pool never became clear. Over to the next page. Video surveillance showed that the water was never clear, even when it opened at noontime on June 25th. It had not become clear at any point since June 21st. On Sunday the 26th, the day Marie Joseph drowned, the automated chlorine and carbon dioxide pumps shut down. Neither feed was restored for the rest of the day. So now we go to the next page, and there's only 2 pages left in the report. DPH regulations require that at all times the water in the swimming pool must be sufficiently clear to permit a black disc, that's known as a secchi, S-E-C-C-H-I, hope I'm pronouncing that properly, disc, 6 inches in diameter on a white field to be clearly visible when that disc is placed or dropped to the bottom of the pool at its deepest point. The regulations require that operators immediately close the pool whenever water quality diminishes to the point that the disc is not visible. But in 2001, the Attorney General of Massachusetts determined that those regulations don't apply to state-owned and state-operated facilities, such as the Fall River Vietnam Veterans Memorial Pool. That made, effectively, this pool exempt from public health regulations, while someone's privately owned pool open to the public or a municipal pool had to follow the regulations. Now we'll go to the next page, final page, where there's a conclusion. This is the conclusion of the district attorney. The investigation into Marie Joseph's death revealed a systemic failure in the operation of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Pool, a series of poor decisions with errors, compounding errors, in other words, one piling on top of the other, a disregard for regulatory requirements, a disregard for the standard for the operation of a pool, pervaded multiple levels of DCR supervision and management. The investigation revealed a repeated willingness to diminish minimum safety standards by reinterpreting the applicable regulation and substituting self-generated standards. Now, the district attorney determined that there was not enough evidence to bring criminal charges for the death of Marie Joseph, because to do so, it must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt that her death was due to reckless and wanton conduct. However, the body was in the pool for nearly 3 days. The pool was in no condition to stay open. Children and other family members were freely allowed to and invited to use the shallow end of the pool. And based on that investigation, the district attorney concluded that the children had been recklessly endangered, and that those responsible, and that they determined to be the regional director, Mr. Shanahan, and the South Coast district manager, Mr. Carter, should be charged. Thus, the Massachusetts State Police filed applications for criminal complaints in the Fall River District. As I just indicated, the Massachusetts State Police filed criminal complaints. And on February 8, 2012, Mr. Carter and Mr. Shanahan appeared in the district court on those criminal charges of recklessly endangering children. The Herald News did an article on it, and this was the account in the newspaper at the time. What happened was that Mr. Carter, who was to the left of the photo, and Mr. Shanahan, who was to the right of the photo, did not plead guilty, but they admitted that sufficient evidence existed to convict them of that crime of reckless endangerment of a child. As a result of a plea bargain, they were given a continuance without a finding, meaning that under Massachusetts law, if they remained out of trouble for a year, their cases would be dismissed completely without any further penalty. And that, my strike force followers, is how the entire criminal proceedings came to a conclusion following the death of Ms. Joseph. Thank you.